The outpost stood silent against the dark sky, half hidden behind layers of dust carried by the passing winds. It was built on a remote frontier world where the ground was dry, the nights were long, and the distances between stations were so wide that people often said silence had a sound of its own. Most beings who worked there came because they wanted peace or because they had no other choice. The outpost rarely saw action, and when it did, it was usually something small, an injured scout, a traveler who had been caught in a fall, or someone recovering from dehydration. Nothing ever truly dangerous happened there. At least, that was what everyone believed. It was late evening when the first alarm echoed through the halls. A patrol ship was approaching, and by the speed of the landing sequence, everyone knew it was an emergency. Most of the staff rushed toward the bay, expecting a regular medical case. But the moment the ship door opened, the air changed. The patrol team was carrying something huge, too large for normal stretchers. They had secured it with heavy straps, and even then, its weight caused the metal frame beneath it to bend. People froze. Some stepped back. Others whispered under their breath, trying to understand what they were looking at. It was a Vraxen. Even the name sent fear through the room. This species was known across several systems as an apex predator, fast, strong, and impossible to subdue once awake. The creature's large frame was covered in thick, patterned scales, but those scales were torn in multiple places. Its breathing was uneven, like it was fighting for every breath. One of its arms hung awkwardly, clearly broken. A deep wound on its side still oozed dark blood. The patrol leader spoke quickly, shouting over the rising panic. We found it lying near the canyon route. Something attacked it. It didn't attack us. It couldn't even stand. But his words didn't calm anyone. Several alien medics shouted that the creature shouldn't be here, that predators of its kind belonged in containment, not in a medical bay. One medic insisted the creature might wake up at any second. Another argued it was too dangerous to even touch. Yet, while everyone else stepped back, one human stood at the far end of the room, watching quietly. The human had been transferred to the outpost only a few weeks earlier. They had seen strange cases before, but nothing as intimidating as this. Still, something about the creature's breathing caught the human's attention, not the fear it caused, but the pain in each breath. The patrol team pushed the stretcher forward, but the alien staff refused to come closer. One of them raised their hands and said, "We cannot treat that. It's against protocol. This species kills first and thinks later." Another quickly added, "Move it to the containment room. Lock the door. We can't risk one of our own getting injured." The human medic continued observing, trying to block out the chaos. The creature didn't look like something preparing to fight. It looked weak. Its claws, usually sharp and lifted in defense, were dull and dragging on the stretcher. Its eyes were partly closed, not from aggression, but from exhaustion. It was clearly hurt, badly hurt. The human took a slow step forward. "It's losing too much blood," they said softly, but loud enough for the others to hear. "If we do nothing, it won't survive another hour." The room fell silent for a moment, but only for a moment. "You want it to survive?" One alien medic snapped. "Do you understand what this thing is? Why would we risk ourselves?" Another one shook their head. "Humans don't understand the danger. This is not a simple creature. This is a Vraxen. Even sedated, it can break through reinforced barriers." The human didn't argue at first. They simply walked a little closer to the creature, stopping just near its head. The patrol team looked relieved finally, someone willing to help. The human could see the slow rise and fall of the creature's chest. The breaths didn't sound like something coming from a predator preparing to strike. They sounded like quiet cries from someone trying to survive. There was a trembling around the creature's mouth, almost like it was trying to breathe through pain. The human checked the readings on the scanner attached to the stretcher. The numbers flashed in harsh red warnings. Blood pressure dangerously low. Heart rate unstable. Oxygen dropping. It's in shock, the human said with certainty. But the alien staff didn't want to hear it. One of them insisted, if you get close and it wakes up, you won't even have time to scream. We have lost entire teams to creatures like this. Another argued, we don't have the equipment to restrain something of this class. We must follow protocol. The human finally turned around. Protocol is for normal days, they said calmly. This one is dying. The patrol leader nodded in agreement. It never attacked us. Even when we found it, it was crawling away from something. Something scared it. That statement surprised the room. A Vraxen scared? It didn't make sense. This species feared nothing. Not battles, not traps, not even their own predators, because they had none. But the wound marks on the creature told a different story. They weren't marks from hunting or chasing prey. They were defensive mark slashes running across its arms and back, like it had been shielding itself from blows. The human noticed it too. They slowly leaned closer, observing patterns of torn scales. The injuries were deep, but not wild. They were controlled, blade-like, almost too precise. Someone attacked this creature with purpose, not for food, not for territory. Something else. The human kept these thoughts to themselves for now. First, the creature needed help. They reached for their kit, but several alien medics shouted in alarm. Don't touch it. You'll cause it to wake. You're putting all of us at risk. But the human didn't respond. They scanned the creature's pulse again, watching it drop slowly. Every second mattered. The human spoke softly, almost in a whisper. It's aware. It can hear us. One of the alien medics froze. Impossible. The neural readings show unconsciousness. The human shook their head. No. Look at the twitching near its eye. Look at the way its hand tightens when the stretcher moves. They were right. The creature wasn't fully unconscious. It was trapped between faint awareness and deep shock. Awake enough to sense danger, but too weak to react, the human took a deep breath and stepped even closer. They gently placed their hand near the creature's neck, never touching, just close enough for the creature to sense calm intentions. The Vraxen's chest rose slowly. Its eye twitched. Its breathing steadied ever so slightly. The alien staff watched in disbelief. The human reached into their kit and pulled out a small device, a life-monitoring tag used for unstable patients. The tag would control vitals, analyze internal issues, and send alerts directly to the medical network. Applying it to a creature like this was unheard of. Alien medics stared as if the human had lost their mind. You can't tag an apex predator, one said. The moment it wakes, it will rip it off and maybe rip you apart too. But the human didn't hesitate. If we don't use it now, we will lose the patient entirely. They placed the tag gently on a wounded area where the scales were slightly lifted. The device activated with a soft sound, and the entire stretcher vibrated as the creature reacted. Its claws twitched. Its eye opened just a fraction. The air in the room froze. Several alien medics ran out in fear, shouting for doors to be locked. But the human stayed completely still, hands raised slightly. The creature's partly opened eye looked right at them. Its pupil contracted, focusing on the human, not with rage, but with confusion, maybe even instinctive recognition. The human whispered, "You're safe. Just stay still. I'm helping you." The creature didn't move again. Its eye closed slowly, not losing consciousness, but resting. The tag screen lit up, displaying internal readings, severe blood loss, cracked ribs, internal bruising, and a strange infection spreading through its bloodstream. The human's eyes widened. They understood instantly that this was no ordinary case. This creature wasn't a monster brought in from the wild. It was a victim of something violent and deliberate. But right now, none of that mattered. All that mattered was keeping it alive. The human turned to the remaining medics and said, "We're not dealing with a menace. We're treating a living being in critical condition. So you can stand back if you're scared. But I'm not walking away." That moment changed everything. The patrol team stood behind the human in support. Some alien medics hesitated, torn between fear and duty. Others slowly approached, still afraid, but willing to help. The creature remained still, breathing in shallow but steady waves, responding only to the human's calm presence. The heavy fear that once filled the room was slowly replaced by something unexpected: quiet respect. For the courage of the human who refused to let a life slip away. Nobody realized it yet, but this was the start of something that would be remembered far beyond that lonely outpost. Something that would prove fear and truth rarely walk the same path. Something that would show even the most feared creature can recognize kindness when it matters most. The medical bay felt even smaller than usual as the doors sealed behind the patrol team. The sound of the locks clicking into place made everyone jump a little, even those who pretended they weren't afraid. The Vraxen lay on the reinforced stretcher, its breathing shallow, but steadying just a bit because of the life-monitoring tag the human had attached. The soft beeping of the device filled the quiet room like a heartbeat, but the quiet didn't last long. One of the senior alien medics stepped forward, keeping a safe distance, and said in a trembling voice, "We can't keep that thing in here. It belongs in containment. If it wakes up, none of us will make it out." Another alien stood behind him and nodded quickly. "We need higher security authorization for anything of this class. We can't treat it like a normal patient." The human didn't answer right away. They were focused on the tag's readings, watching numbers jump and settle as the device scanned the creature's internal condition. Temperature unstable, blood pressure too low, infection levels rising, heart rhythm uneven. Every second mattered, but the alien medics weren't looking at the numbers. They were looking at the creature's huge claws, at its deep breathing that seemed too powerful even in weakness, and at the size of its limbs, which could easily crush a medical pod if it chose to. Fear was louder than logic. The human finally looked up. "I know it's dangerous," they said calmly, "but right now, it's not trying to harm anyone. It's barely conscious." The senior medic snapped back. "Barely is enough. Creatures like this don't think before attacking. They act on instinct. If it senses pain or fear, it could react violently." The humans shook their heads slowly, not in disagreement, but in exhaustion. They had heard similar arguments before. If we treat it carefully, it won't see us as a threat. One alien medic whispered, "You're too close. Move back, please." Their voice cracked so slightly that it almost sounded like a plea. The human glanced down at the creature again. Its eye remained closed, but its chest rose in a slow rhythmic pattern that didn't match aggression. The creature wasn't preparing to attack. It was trying to stay alive. The human spoke softly. "Look at it. Really look at it. Does it look like something ready to leap at us? Or does it look like something that's been through something terrible?" The room grew quiet again. One of the junior medics leaned closer, squinting at the wounds from behind another colleague. They hadn't dared look earlier. Now that they did, their expression shifted slightly from fear to something else: concern, maybe. "These injuries," the junior medic whispered, "they're not attack wounds from prey. They're controlled. Too neat. Too targeted." The human nodded gently. "Exactly. Something heard it on purpose." This sentence made some of the staff exchange worried glances. If something out there could injure a Vraxen this badly, their outpost might not be as safe as they believed. The senior medic took a deep breath and steadied themselves. "Even so, We can't risk the entire outpost for this creature. The human didn't argue directly. Instead, they moved toward the sink, washed their hands, and pulled on fresh gloves. Their movements were calm and careful, not rushed or dramatic. Just steady dot as they prepared supplies. They spoke quietly. I'll treat it. Alone if I have to. You all can stay behind the barrier wall. A few alien medics looked both relieved and guilty. The senior medic frowned, shaking their head. We can't let you do this alone. You're putting yourself at too much risk. The human offered a tired but sincere smile. If I don't, it won't make it. And I don't want a life lost just because we were scared. The sincerity in their voice softened the room. It didn't erase the fear, but it made everyone stop and think. Slowly, a few medics stepped forward, still cautious, but no longer frozen in place. We can assist from a distance, one said quietly. Just tell us what you need. The human nodded, grateful for even a small bit of support. They approached the creature again, this time with a tray of sterile tools and scanning patches. Before doing anything, they studied the creature's face. Its large jaw was tight, as if holding back pain. There was a faint tremble in its breathing every time they moved near a deep wound. The human whispered, I'm going to lift your arm a little. Don't be scared. They knew the creature likely understood nothing, but speaking kindly was more for reassurance than communication. It felt wrong to stay silent. When the human gently touched the creature's arm, the response was immediate but small. A faint twitch. Not aggressive, not resisting, just reacting to being moved. Like a person flinching at pain, the human adjusted the limb carefully, checking for fractures. The bones were misaligned, but not shattered. It could be fixed, but not without more equipment. They glanced at the senior medic behind the barrier. I need a bone stabilizer kit. The senior medic blinked, surprised the human was asking them for something so calmly, then reluctantly nodded and passed the kit through the barrier slot. Here, but you stabilizing its arm could wake it. The human didn't look away from the creature. Then I'll deal with it if it does. Their voice was so steady that even the nervous medics found themselves watching with unexpected respect as the human applied the stabilizer. The creature's breathing changed slightly. It wasn't fear. It wasn't aggression. It was a low, deep rumble, something close to discomfort. The human paused, giving the creature a moment to adjust. With slow hands, they continued. One alien medic whispered, How are you not scared? The human didn't look back. I am scared, but fear shouldn't stop us from doing what's right. The words landed heavily in the room. No one responded, but several heads lowered, embarrassed by their earlier reactions. The human then began cleaning the deep wound on the creature's side. The infection was spreading fast, visible even without advanced tools. The human applied a disinfectant patch, one designed to numb the area and slow infection. The moment the patch touched the wound, the creature's eye opened, slightly. Just a sliver. Just enough to see the human clearly. The room went silent. The human froze. Hands still, chest tightening, but not in fear. They lifted their hands gently, showing no tools, no threat. It's okay, they whispered. The creature didn't move further. Its glowing eyes stared at the human for several seconds, studying them with a strange, almost searching look. Then, slowly, its eyelid lowered again. The alien medics behind the barrier let out a long breath they didn't realize they were holding. One of them stammered, It acknowledged you. The human kept their voice low. It knows I'm helping. They didn't say it confidently. They said it softly, like someone who hopes to be right. The wound cleaning took time. The infection was worse than expected. The human had to cut away damaged tissue, flush the area with medicine, and attach a regeneration strip. Each step required patience. Each step carried the risk of waking the creature fully. But through the entire process, the creature remained still. Weak, yes, but trusting Dot as the human worked. Their mind wasn't on fear. It was on the small details, like how the creature's scales were thicker near the spine, but thinner around the ribs. Or how its breathing steadied each time the human kept a hand near its shoulder. Or how its claws twitched less once the numbing patches took effect. The human understood. Something important then. This creature wasn't fighting survival. It was surrendering to it. Dot sometimes beings, even dangerous ones, could sense when someone meant well. The senior medic finally spoke again, voice softer. You're doing more than any of us expected. The human didn't look up. I'm just doing my job. Another medic added, most people wouldn't have risked it. You did. The human smiled slightly. If something is suffering and I can help, then I should. That's all. Little by little, the hostility in the room faded. It didn't disappear fully, but it lost its sharpness. The medics began passing tools when needed, adjusting the lights, and monitoring readings from behind the barrier. Dot. It wasn't just the human anymore. Even in fear, people were learning to help Dot after several long minutes. The human stepped back to check the creature's overall condition. The tag readings were more stable now. Heart rhythm wasn't perfect, but it wasn't dropping dangerously anymore. Temperature normalizing. Infection slowed. Breathing steady. Dot. It wasn't healed. Not even close, but it wasn't dying anymore. The human let out a slow, relieved breath. The creature exhaled at the same moment, as if responding. The human whispered, You're safe now. At least for tonight. No one dared say it aloud, but everyone in the room felt that Dot something had shifted, something important, not just in the creature, but in the people. Watching, fear had stepped back, compassion had stepped forward, and although none of them knew it yet, this moment was only the beginning of a connection none of them ever thought possible. The quiet inside the medical bay felt different the next morning. It wasn't the heavy, tense silence from the night before. It was softer, like the air itself was tired but hopeful. The creature the Vraxen lay still on the reinforced stretcher, wrapped in medical patches and stabilized with a monitoring tag. The constant beeping of the device had become familiar, almost comforting, like a reminder that the creature was still alive. The human medic walked into the room with slow steps, holding a tablet filled with the creature's updated readings. They hadn't slept much the night before, not because they were scared, but because their mind kept replaying the moment when the creature opened its eye and looked at them, not with rage, but with something that felt strangely close to trust. A few alien medics were already in the room, standing behind a transparent barrier wall. They didn't walk into the open section yet, but their posture was different. They weren't backing away anymore. They were watching, observing, and trying to understand what made the human so calm around something everyone else saw as dangerous. The human placed the tablet on a counter and approached the creature slowly. They checked the stabilizer wrapped around its arm, making sure everything was still in place. The patch on the creature's side showed slight improvement, too. The infection had slowed, thanks to the emergency medicine. Everything looked stable, but stable didn't mean safe. The human bent down slightly, studying the creature's face. Its breathing was steady, but not peaceful. Every few breaths, its jaw tightened, like the creature was still feeling pain somewhere deep inside. The human reached out and lightly placed 2 fingers near the creature's shoulder, not touching, just close enough for the creature to sense movement. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the creature's claws twitched again. Its chest rose faster. A low rumbling sound vibrated from its throat, not loud, not threatening. More like a warning from something reacting on instinct. The human whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm right here." The voice wasn't strong or commanding. It was gentle, like someone trying to calm a frightened child or a scared animal. Slowly, the creature's breathing eased again. The rumbling faded. The human took another breath, relieved. Behind the barrier, one of the alien medics finally spoke. "It responds to your voice," they said quietly. The human didn't look back. "I think it knows I'm helping." Another medic shook their head. "Or maybe it's too weak to fight." The human replied calmly, "Weak or not, it knows the difference between pain and comfort." The medics fell silent again, unsure if they agreed or not. But one thing was clear: the creature reacted differently to the human than Nada. To anyone else, the human checked the monitoring tag. Most readings had improved slightly, except one. The creature's heartbeat rose suddenly, fast and uneven. The human frowned and leaned closer, worried. The moment they did, the creature's eye opened, not halfway, like last time, fully, a glowing, sharp eye with a slit pupil stared straight at the human. The room froze. One alien medic shouted, "Back away!" "It's awake." Another one stumbled backward, hitting the barrier wall behind them. The creature remained still, but its eye stayed locked on the human's face. It wasn't moving. It wasn't snarling. It wasn't preparing to attack. But the intensity of its gaze felt powerful enough to stop the air itself. The humans swallowed the lump in their throat. Their hands were slightly trembling, but they kept their voice steady. "You're waking up, aren't you? Easy. No sudden moves." The creature blinked slowly. That blink didn't look like something a predator did before striking. It looked like someone extremely tired, trying to stay conscious. The human lifted their empty hands carefully and said, "I won't hurt you." The creature's breathing changed again. It wasn't fast or aggressive. It was deep, slow, almost controlled, like it was trying to match the human's calmness. The alien medics behind the barrier whispered to each other in disbelief. "It's aware of them. It's watching them, but not attacking. What is happening?" The humans stayed close, but didn't touch the creature. They moved to the side, scanning its vitals again. The numbers were high, showing stress, but not danger. The creature's eye followed their every movement, but it didn't show the classic signs of aggression that medics were trained to watch for. No flaring of the jaw, no raising of claws, no tension in the tail. It was simply alert and trying to understand where it was. After a few moments, the creature's eye began to close again, but not all the way. It stayed half open, enough to keep watching the human. The human smiled a little. "Good. You're staying with me." "That's good." One alien medic finally stepped out from behind the barrier, hands shaking. "Are you sure it's safe to be that close?" "If it wakes fully," the human shook their head gently. "It already is awake. If it wanted to react, it would have done so already." This realization made the room quiet again. The creature wasn't lying helpless anymore. It wasn't unconscious. It was making a choice. The human prepared a new set of fluids to stabilize the creature's hydration levels. As they brought the tube closer, the creature's eye flicked toward it. The human paused. "It's medicine," they said softly. "To help you." There was no way to know if the creature understood the words. But the human used the tone one uses when speaking to something afraid and confused. After a long second, the creature relaxed its jaw slightly. The human took that as permission. They began adjusting the valve on the infusion tube. The creature didn't resist. Instead, its eye closed another fraction, like the pain was easing little by little. One of the medics finally walked closer, still nervous. "How did you know it wouldn't attack?" The human glanced at the creature, then back at the medic. "I didn't know. I just trusted what I saw." "What did you see?" The medic asked quietly. The human studied the creature for a moment. Fear, pain, confusion, but not anger. Their voice softened even more. Something hurt it badly. Something chased it. And when it woke up here, it didn't see attackers. It saw someone trying to help. The medics exchanged looks, unsure how to respond. Their fear wasn't gone, but it had changed. It wasn't the same panic from before. Now it carried a sense of curiosity. The human moved around the stretcher, checking the back wounds they hadn't had time to clean earlier. As they carefully lifted a section of scales, the creature made a low sound, not threatening, more like a warning. The human stopped immediately. "Okay, easy. I won't touch that area." The creature relaxed again. Every time the human listened to its reactions, the creature seemed to trust a little more. It wasn't trust built from words or logic. It was trust born out of instinct, the kind that forms when someone treats another with patience and respect. After almost an hour of slow, careful work, the human stepped back and wiped their forehead. "You're doing well," they whispered to the creature. To their surprise, the creature made a very soft rumble, not loud, not aggressive. It was almost like a hum. The human paused, unsure at first, then smiled. "You're welcome," they whispered back as if responding to a thank you. The medics behind the barrier stared in disbelief. One of them whispered, "This doesn't make sense. It's acting like it recognizes them." Another said, "Maybe it does." The senior medic, who had been silent most of the morning, finally stepped forward. Their expression wasn't fearful anymore. It was thoughtful. Some species form their first bond with the one who treats their wounds. Maybe this one is doing the same. The human didn't look away from the creature. Maybe, or maybe it's just tired of pain. A soft vibration sounded from the monitoring tag. The readings showed slow improvement. The creature's heart rate steadied. Its breathing evened out. Infection levels continued to drop. Its temperature rose slightly. A good sign. Everything was working. The creature blinked slowly again, and its eye moved to the human's hands. Its claws curled a little, then relaxed. The human spoke softly, almost like telling a bedtime story. "You're safe here. I promise." Promises didn't usually matter to creatures. But sometimes, tone mattered more than words. The creature's eye finally closed again. Deeper this time, not unconscious, but resting with a kind of trust that hadn't existed the night before. The room felt warmer suddenly, not physically, but emotionally. Even the medics who had been terrified earlier stood a little straighter. One of them whispered, "It trusts you." The human didn't brag, didn't smile proudly. They just nodded gently. "I think it's starting to." And that's small. Beginning just a slow blink and a calm heartbeat. Felt like the start of something none of them had ever seen before. Wasn't just a creature surviving. It was a creature choosing not to fear. And it was choosing the human medic as the first living being to trust. The medical bay felt unusually quiet that morning. Even the hum of the machines seemed softer, almost cautious, as if they too were waiting to see what would happen next. The predator still lying on the reinforced medical bed seemed calmer than before, though its steady breaths still made the metal frame vibrate. The human medic walked in slowly, carrying a tray filled with updated tools, nutrient packs, and a small scanner. He paused at the doorway for a moment, taking in the sight of the creature that had become the center of attention for the entire station. He had spent most of the night reviewing data, replaying moments of the previous day, and thinking about how close everything had been to falling apart. But now there was no space for those thoughts. The new day meant new work, new risks, and new chances to understand this creature that everyone feared, everyone except him. As he stepped closer, the predator opened one golden eye, watching him carefully. It still didn't fully trust him, but there was no anger in that gaze anymore. It looked more like curiosity, maybe even acceptance. The medic smiled softly and placed the tray beside the bed. "You're looking better today," he said gently. knowing the creature didn't understand the words, but might understand the tone. To his surprise, the predator let out a quiet sound, a soft, low vibration. Not a threat, more like acknowledgement. The medic began checking the creature's vitals. The readings showed improvement, which relieved him more than he expected. He inspected the bandages, gently lifted the damaged limb, and nodded to himself when he saw that the swelling had gone down. Everything was moving in the right direction. But as he worked, he noticed movement outside the glass wall of the bay. A group of alien medics stood there again, staring inside with a mixture of fear and disbelief. They whispered to each other, shaking their heads, pointing at him, as if waiting for him to make a mistake. He tried to ignore them, but the pressure sat heavy on his shoulders. He knew he had become the talk of the station. Some said he was reckless. Others said he was foolish. A few even suggested he should be removed from his post for putting the station at risk. But he didn't care about those opinions. What mattered to him was the creature lying in front of him, the creature no one else dared to help. After finishing the early checks, he decided to take the next step, a diagnostic scan, to map the internal injuries more accurately. The predator stiffened the moment the scanner beeped to life. Its muscles tensed, claws twitching slightly. The medic stopped immediately and lowered the device. "It's okay," he said in a calm voice. "No pain, just checking." He held out the scanner, letting the creature sniff the cool metal. It studied him for a moment, then slowly relaxed. The medic resumed, moving slowly, making sure the creature could predict his actions. Building trust like this wasn't part of standard medical training, but it felt natural to him. Every creature deserved understanding. Every creature deserved patience. The scan finished, and the medic analyzed the data. The internal damage was healing well, but the creature had lost more strength than he expected. Recovery would take time. Real time, but that was fine. He had time to give. While reviewing the results, one of the alien commanders entered the bay without warning. The medic straightened instinctively. The commander was tall, stern, and carried an expression that was never easy to read. "You're still working on that creature," the commander said, his voice sharp but controlled. "Yes," the medic replied simply. "You know the risks." "I do. And I also know that leaving it untreated would have been far worse." The commander looked at the predator through the glass, his jaw tightening. "It's dangerous, unpredictable. It has attacked travelers before." "It was injured," the medic said, keeping his tone polite. "Any living being fights when afraid or hurt." The commander gave him a long, unsettled stare. "You put yourself at risk. And the station. Some believe you're going too far." The medic didn't look away. "Then they should observe it more closely. Fear shouldn't guide our decisions." For a moment, the commander seemed like he wanted to argue. But then he let out a small breath and stepped back. "Just be cautious," he said, turning away. "We cannot afford accidents." Once the commander left, the medic looked back at the predator. The creature had watched the entire interaction with surprising stillness. It made a soft sound again, something almost thoughtful. The medic wondered if it sensed more than he realized. Hours passed. He continued monitoring the creature, adjusting nutrient formulas, cleaning old wounds, and speaking softly as he worked. Even though it didn't understand his words, talking made the room feel less tense, more connected. And maybe, in some strange way, the creature did understand something, because it had stopped reacting aggressively whenever he approached. By midday, the creature attempted to move its injured limb again. It growled faintly in discomfort, but it didn't thrash or strike out. "That was progress. You're trying," the medic said softly. "Good, but don't push it too soon." The predator blinked slowly, almost like it understood the advice. Then something unexpected happened. A soft knock echoed at the entrance of the bay. The medic turned, surprised when he saw a small group of younger alien trainees. They looked nervous, but they entered anyway, keeping a safe distance from the predator. One of them cleared their throat. We want to observe," the trainee said. "The commander said you might allow it." The medic nodded. "You can watch from there. But stay calm. No sudden movements. And don't stare directly into its eyes for too long." The trainees approached the glass divider. Their faces showed fascination mixed with fear. The predator noticed them and lifted its head slightly, but it didn't react aggressively. It simply studied them, almost as curious as they were. "Is it still dangerous?" One trainee whispered. "All creatures are dangerous when afraid," the medic replied. "But fear fades when you show kindness. Why did you treat it when everyone else refused?" Another trainee asked. The medic paused for a moment. "Because it deserved help. That's all." His simple answer left them silent. But he could tell they were thinking deeply. Maybe this was the beginning of a change, a small one, but a change nonetheless. As the day moved on, the predator grew tired and drifted into a deep sleep. The medic dimmed the lights slightly and cleaned the area quietly, making sure not to disturb it. The trainees stayed until shift change, watching quietly, absorbing everything they could. Some of them even asked good questions about anatomy, behavior, healing, and communication. By evening, the medic finally stepped away to take a short break. He stood outside the bay, looking at the sleeping creature through the glass. The medics who had refused to treat it earlier passed by occasionally, glancing at him with expressions mixed between respect and disbelief. Even if they didn't admit it, something in their views was already shifting. As he leaned against the wall, he realized something. The predator wasn't the only one changing. The station was too. The fear that had once filled every corridor was beginning to soften. Curiosity was growing. With curiosity came understanding. And with understanding came the possibility of peace. The medic returned to the bay one last time before ending his shift. The predator opened its eyes slightly when he approached, then closed them again, as if trusting him to handle the rest. "Rest," the medic whispered. "You're getting stronger. Soon you'll stand again." He didn't know what the future held, whether the creature would stay calm, whether the station would accept it, or whether the situation would shift again. But for now, things were better than they had been. He had built a bridge where everyone else saw a wall, and that, he thought, was worth every risk he had taken. When he finally left the med bay for the night, he felt lighter, hopeful, and ready for the challenges that would come tomorrow, because the story wasn't over yet, not even close. The final day of the creature's treatment began with an unusual stillness across the station. It was the kind of quiet that didn't feel empty, but expectant, like everyone was waiting for something important to happen. A human medic felt it the moment he stepped out of his quarters. Even the usual sounds of footsteps, chatter, and machinery seemed softer. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, or if the entire place was genuinely holding its breath. He walked with a steady pace toward the medical bay, holding a small device in his hand. It was the tracker tag the council had insisted on using. A harmless little tool meant for monitoring health and movement, nothing painful or invasive. He didn't love the idea of attaching anything to the creature, but he understood why the station wanted it. After everything that had happened, after all the fear and doubt, they wanted assurance. They wanted to know that even when the creature healed, they could keep an eye on it, but he also knew something else. Tagging the creature wasn't just for the station. It would also protect the creature from being harmed out of fear or misunderstanding. As long as the tag showed peaceful behavior, no one would treat it like a threat again. When he reached the med bay doors, he took a deep breath and stepped inside. The predator was awake, sitting upright for the first time without struggling. Its posture was proud, strong, almost regal. It took him a moment to realize just how much bigger it looked when it wasn't lying down. The creature's golden eyes followed him as he approached, not with the old suspicion, but with something that felt strangely close to recognition. "Good morning," the medic said quietly. The creature made a soft rumble, not a threat, but a greeting. He set his tools down beside the bed. There were fewer instruments today. Most of the heavy equipment had been removed now that the creature no longer needed it. Only a few final checks remained, and then the tag. As he began his examination, he noticed something new. The injuries that had once looked severe were now barely visible beneath layers of new skin and fur. The creature's breathing was strong. Its heart rate had stabilized. Every reading showed it was ready to return to its normal life. "You've healed faster than I expected," the medic whispered with admiration. "You're tougher than all of us thought." The creature blinked slowly, as if acknowledging the remark. Just as he finished checking the vitals, one of the alien trainees from the day before entered the bay. The trainee stood nervously at the doorway. Is today the day?" they asked. "Almost," the medic replied. "I'm just doing the final scan." The trainee stepped closer, watching with wide eyes. "It looks calm. Very calm." "It feels safe now," the medic said. "That makes all the difference." The trainee nodded with quiet respect. "Some of the others are waiting outside. They want to see it stand." The medic wasn't surprised. The creature's recovery had become a kind of unspoken event across the station. People who had once refused to even look at it now whispered about its progress. Word had spread quickly that the creature wasn't as terrifying as they once believed, and seeing it healed would only reinforce that. He gently placed his hand on the creature's uninjured side and spoke softly. "Try to stand, but slowly. Don't rush." The creature's bright eyes focused on him for a moment, then it shifted its weight. Muscles rippled beneath its skin as it pushed itself up. The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to pause. Then, with a controlled movement, the predator stood fully on all four limbs. The trainee gasped quietly. The medic smiled, not out of surprise, but out of pride. He had seen the creature at its weakest, struggling to breathe, unable to move. But now, standing tall and steady, it looked like the powerful apex predator the galaxy respected and feared. But this time, it wasn't fear that filled the room. It was awe. "Easy," the medic said when the creature tried to shift forward. "You've only just started walking again." The creature calmed. Lowering its head slightly, as if agreeing, the trainee whispered, "It listens to you." "It listens because I listen to it," the medic replied gently. After a few moments of steady breathing, the creature eased back down, resting without discomfort. The medic checked its muscles again to ensure there was no strain. Everything was still fine. Now came the part he had been thinking about all night, the tag. He picked up the small device, no bigger than a coin, and held it in his hand. It shimmered faintly under the lights. The creature noticed the object and tensed slightly, not out of fear, but caution. "It won't hurt," he said softly. "It's just a tracker. It keeps you safe. It keeps everyone else calm." The creature tilted its head, studying his face. Somehow, in a way that couldn't be explained by logic alone, it seemed to understand that he wasn't trying to harm it. Slowly, the medic reached out and touched the side of the creature's neck. The skin was warm beneath his hand. With gentle pressure, he attached the tag. It clicked softly, almost like a whisper. The creature flinched at the sound, but didn't pull away. That alone showed just how much trust had been built. "It's done," the medic said, stepping back. "You did well." The creature let out a long exhale, as if relieved. Before he could say anything else, the med bay doors slid open again. This time, several senior medics and 2 council members entered. They approached with a sense of caution, but also clear respect. One of the council members spoke. "We received the readings. Its recovery is complete." "Yes," the human medic replied. "It's healthy, strong, and calm." Another council member stepped forward. "And the tag?" "In place," the medic confirmed. The council members exchanged quiet words before one of them looked at the creature directly. "You may release it from the medical bay," they said. "It may return to the designated habitat." The medic nodded. He had expected this decision, but hearing it aloud made it feel final. It was almost bittersweet. He turned back to the creature. "Looks like you're going home." The predator's golden eyes locked onto his. There was no fear, no aggression, only something that almost resembled understanding and loyalty. The med bay doors were opened fully to allow the creature space to exit. The hallway beyond had been cleared. Dozens of eyes watched from a respectful distance, some curious, some amazed, but none hostile. The creature rose once more, walking with more confidence this time. Its steps were slow but steady. The medic walked beside it, not leading it, but accompanying it. As they moved through the corridor, the other medics lowered their eyes, not out of fear, but respect. Even those who had once refused to help now stepped aside silently. The creature's presence no longer sent waves of panic through the station. Instead, it brought a strange calm. The predator paused halfway down the hall and turned its head toward the medic. It made a low, soft sound, almost like a farewell. The medic stopped too, looking into its golden eyes. "You're welcome," he said quietly. "And thank you for trusting me." The creature blinked slowly and continued walking. When they reached the habitat entrance, the doors opened to reveal a wide, natural environment built specifically for creatures like this dense plants. Climbing structures, soft soil, and muted lights. A safe, quiet space. The predator stepped inside, but before disappearing fully, it turned back one last time. The medic felt something warm and heavy in his chest, something like pride, something like connection. Then the predator disappeared into the greenery. Silence filled the doorway. The council member beside him spoke. "You've changed more than its fate. You've changed the way we see things." "I didn't do anything special," the medic replied softly. "I just did what should have been done." "But no one else did," the council member said simply. The medic didn't answer. He didn't need to. As he walked back toward the med bay, he felt lighter than he had in days. The station felt different. Now, not cold, not tense, but hopeful. People were talking softly, exchanging curious glances, and some even looked at him with newfound respect. When he finally reached the quiet of the med bay, he looked around at the space that had been filled with so much fear only days before. Now it felt peaceful. The story had started with a creature everyone wanted to avoid, and a medic no one expected to step forward. But in the end, it became something else entirely. A bridge. A lesson. A reminder that kindness, even when small, could shift an entire world. And as he sat down for the first real moment of rest, he allowed himself a smile, because the creature wasn't the only one who had healed. So had the station. And maybe, even without anyone saying it aloud, so had he.